on Mackie and Judd. Let's keep it rolling here. Presented by Federated Mutual Insurance Company. Federated has been around for over 100 years, and they've been helping business owners maximize the success of their business. They basically act as I was going to say competent offensive line. They're much more than that. It's like an all-pro offensive line for your business, shielding you against potential risks and things that could put a dent in your business. Find out more about how My Shield can protect you, and just find out more about the resources and people that Federated offers at federatedinsurance.com. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. All right, Feedback Friday continues here on Mackie and Judd. Stoneweight 2018 on the YouTube comment section says, totally disagree with Patrick Royce about Kellen Moore. He's a brilliant offensive mind and has an established track record of excellence as an offensive coordinator. Passing on hiring him because of his age, he's like 33, and having never been a head coach is akin to teams passing on Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay in 2017. Do you view it that way with Kellen Moore, that, boy, I know that Declan does, but do you think that he is the next Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, and you would be foolish to pass on him?
I personally would need, if I was the Wilfs, I would need to talk to him, because I don't think age is nearly as important as personality. Again, I'll always go back to Mike Tomlin. He was a kid and he was incredible. He was absolutely incredible. He had a demeanor and presence about him that was far more impressive than anybody else, in my opinion, in Winter Park in 2006. Okay. So like, I am not going to sit here and say age is a problem. Now, Clint Kubiak, it was. He was inexperienced. He was not confident. He had all of the red flags that you said, dude, you might be really good one day. Not now. But I would need to, beyond the fact that I think it's been established that Kellen Moore is very good at X's and O's in football, the most important thing to me, especially as a head coach, and Phil, we've talked about this a lot, to lead a group of men, like you have to be respected. The most important thing would be to sit down and see how he carries himself. And on that one, I have no clue at this point.
Yeah. There's been some whiffs on young offensive-minded guys. I mean, Matt Nagy's not like super young, but Matt Nagy was a whiff. And although Matt Nagy did take the Bears to the playoffs twice, Mitch Trubisky, didn't they win like 12 games with Mitch Trubisky one year?
So, yeah, 11, well, he took them to the playoffs. The
double doink.
That 7 seed, though, which I think they snuck into last year, that 7 seed is like, we're a playoff team. Are you really?
Yeah.
Now his first year was impressive. Ultimately, I think the problem with Matt was he had a lot of the same things that Brad had. They were very similar in like, Matt was not nearly as big of genius as we thought. And where I knew that the Bears were screwed was the kicker obsession, the double doink obsession.
Yeah.
It's like, are you serious? Like, you're showing this to people in June? Are you an idiot? So,
yeah. Just kind of looking at NFL coaches in the playoffs right now too. It's incredible how many young offensive head coaches are leading playoff teams right now. And by young, I mean like 42 and younger. Matt LaFleur, 42 years old. Sean McVay, 35 years old. Zach Taylor, 38 years old. Kyle Shanahan, 42 years old. Nick Sirianni, who everyone kind of laughed at because of his weird, nervous opening press conference. That was the Eagles were rebuilding this year, and they're going to the playoffs.
That is impressive.
Dude, don't sleep on them. They might actually have a chance to upset in the first round here. Cliff Kingsbury, 42 years old. And then Kevin Stefanski didn't make the playoffs, but he was the NFL Coach of the Year last year and basically gave the Browns their peak moment since coming back in 1999. He's 39 years old. So this is definitely the trend right now in the NFL.
How do you guys weigh this one, though? So the majority of names that you read off that list are attached to a quarterback who I would take in a heartbeat.
Yep.
I think the one that impresses me the most, and I just like his presence, and I think he's very smart, and I like how he sort of controls the room, is McVay. Like LaFleur, I still don't know. I would love to see him separated from Rodgers just to see this. because I mean his record is impressive. I think he's good, but I don't know for sure. Shanahan, who I don't like his personality as much as McVay's, but those two impress me because I think they're doing it with quarterbacks who are good and have, but I don't think they're doing it with a quarterback who I would say, give me that guy right now.
I think with Moore and comparing it to Shanahan too, how much was Kyle's last name, like basically the nepotism a little bit of him giving a head coaching reins? How much did that play a factor of him being a Shanahan? Because like I don't remember because he was in Washington pre-San Francisco, right? He was the OC in Washington.
He was like Falcons. A 30-year-old offensive coordinator with Washington. Yes,
with Washington and
actually he was
Atlanta,
he was the Texans offensive coordinator in his late 20s.
Yep.
In 2008, 2009.
And clearly he was a smart dude. That's where like the parallels with Kellen Moore are legit. But I'd have to like go back and was Shanahan, did he have any leadership qualities? Because I think that is honestly the bigger hang up with Kellen Moore. They know Kellen Moore's a smart, innovative coordinator. I think anyone will say, yeah, that's a fact. But is he a leader of men, as that cliche is thrown around?
Shanahan is.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't.
But did we know that in his 20s and 30s about Shanahan? Did we know that?
Like, when did it blossom for him?
Yes,
I guess.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, so on paper, Kyle Shanahan became an offensive coordinator in the National Football League as a 28 or 29-year-old. And you're like, whoa. But of course, he probably doesn't get that job if his last name isn't Shanahan. So, yeah, the jackpot would be that you identify a young, offensive-minded leader of men, and he is your 10-year head coach. And whether it's Kirk or somebody that you draft, you're maximizing quarterback, and you're playing a little bit more modern style. Also, like we've talked about this on the show before, like the Vikings, and I know that it worked in 2017 because they won 13 games, but this defensive style of football, it just feels off when you look at where they play. Like, they play in this track meet indoor stadium, right? They're not taking advantage of the cold weather, and the best Vikings teams of the last 20 plus years are 1998 and 2009 track meet offensive football. Let's just go score 30 plus points every game and beat the brakes off teams. It's also a more fun style to watch as a fan too. So I'd love to see them lean into that. Let's get back to high octane offensive football here.
Mm-hmm. I'm just the most important thing here is until you find the QB, you can't. I don't think you can draw parallels to young offensive minded coaches necessarily who have the guy. Joe Burrow's the guy. Like Joe Burrow, and that could be great for a long time, but my question is with Moore, what's he like as well? So before he has the guy, is he going to be good, or does he need? Because again, wouldn't you guys love to see Matt LaFleur on his own? Like, I would
love to see the Packers without a Hall of Fame quarterback for the first time in 30
exactly.
years. Yes,
but I mean, is Matt LaFleur that good? His quarterback is incredible. So my point is, the one thing that you can't draw a direct line between right now is a team that's got a young coach and a generational QB and the Vikings, because they just don't have yet, at least, hopefully one day they do, that quarterback.
Of course, I think the counter argument there would be Sean McVay took Jared Goff to a Super Bowl.
That's why I said
tied in the fourth quarter.
That's what I said.
Shanahan took Jimmy Garoppolo. He's good.
Those are my top two, though. Like, if you gave me this whole crop right now and said rank them, McVay's one.
Mm-hmm.
I think McVay is the NFL better in game, smarter PJ Fleck. He's super positive.
He also thinks more about end game strategy and timeout usage.
Oh no, he's a better coach. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying personality wise, I think he brings a good vibe.
Yeah,
and I think players like that. But beyond McVay and Shanahan, the rest of that list that you read, Phil, I think is tied to a quarterback where I'm like, okay, give me that quarterback too.
Yeah. The other things too, like as you're vetting head coaching candidates, just think about the massive nature of that job, right? First of all, you got to keep 53 guys and a bunch of coaches on the same page and get them all believing in the same mission and vision. And like, that is a whole thing in itself as a leader. Mm-hmm. But then schematically, you have to be sound, right? You can't just be playing checkers out there like the Vikings offense has been, while other teams are playing chess. And then, so that's bin number 2. And then bin number and I would say bin number 3 is hiring. You hire the right people that can, do the scheming of your defense, whatever it is. But then there's this bin number 4 that I feel like gets overlooked all the time, and it bites the Vikings in the ass all the time. It bites the Gophers in the ass all the time. Clock and game management. Yes. End of halves, timeout usage, right? Yes. And it's like, I'm rowing the boat. I love me some PJ Fleck. He checks all. He's one of the best leaders, right? He can get a room of football players to run through a wall.
Yeah.
In terms of recruiting in college, they're bringing in 4-star guys that never would have come here before PJ Fleck. Biggest offensive line in college football. And then, schematically, I'm not in love with them running the ball 70% of the time. The only 3 schools that run the ball more are Army, Navy, and Air Force. Not in love with that, but it's been working. They've been winning games. And then he's just so bad with timeout management and clock management and all that stuff, and it's lost them some games.
Right.
So how do you, are you going to find a head coach that can legitimately check all 4 of those boxes? Leader of men, knows who to hire, right? Schematically sound, and is great at end game chess. It's hard to check all 4 of those boxes.
My new guy is going to accept my suggestion and insistence that we hire a coach that manages the clock.
And how would you? I agree, by the way. And like the Ravens have one. How do you implement that in a game?
We're going to find a way, and I'm going to tell you right now, that paycheck is going to be because I'm not going to have an assistant linebackers coach. That's right. I'm going to get rid of the outside linebackers coach, and I'm going to deign to have one man or woman, I don't care, coach linebackers, because this league,
we need 2. We need 2 linebackers.
Oh, and we
coaches.
need an assistant defensive backs coach too.
But you got an inside linebackers coach, an outside linebackers coach.
We need someone to coach the nickel position. Bleep you. Here's what we're doing: clock management. And I actually think So McVay had who was former Gopher assistant Jed Fish, who I think now is back in college. He took
Arizona
a different
or something?
job. Yeah, but Jed Fish was his game management guy.
Mm-hmm. And rule number 1 should be timeouts are the holy grail, especially in the second half.
Second half, yes.
You should not call timeout unless you absolutely have to. You should always have 3 timeouts in the second half of the fourth quarter.
Yes.
And what happens is these guys, PJ does this all the time. Okay, it's 3rd and 12, and you're snapping the ball from your own 15-yard line. So you're probably punting, right?
Yes.
And oh God, the play clock's winding down, and there's confusion. Gotta call timeout.
No, actually, take the penalty.
Yeah,
I know.
It doesn't matter. No, I gotta call timeout. What are you supposed to do? No, dude.
You're so right.
Calm down.
Think about this: the Vikings. I think it was it the Browns game? On a field goal attempt or an extra point, Sheldon Richardson,
That's
who
right.
was just on the field on special teams.
We're not lined up right.
Called a timeout.
It's okay.
Now, in my opinion, that's coaching. Think about all the crap that you work through, right?
But
Training
then
camp.
Zimmer getting pissed about that led to Kirk not calling timeout a couple weeks later.
But
Then Kirk
Zimmer
being like,
should have been mad.
timeouts.
But Mike should have been mad at Mike. Think about all the crap in training camp that you go through. Situational, we got to work. And that's great. We got to work on the, and you had a player, you've got to tell your players like that. Okay. Number 1, I don't want a big fat guy calling timeouts. Quarterback different.
If you're over the weight of 270 pounds,
but I mean, I
you're
would
not
say if a
allowed to call
lineman
timeout.
ever calls a timeout, I'm going to come out in the field and beat you up. But if you think about those things, you got to get a coach who can help. And it's not like some terrible incrimination of the head coach, right? Oh, well, you don't know exactly how to. You're responsible for about 50 things during a game. So I think it's fine.
Yeah. All right. Next question here. Feedback Friday. Robert Wolf via the SKOR North app. He says, a coach GM combo that the Wilfs should consider. Jim Harbaugh at coach, near instant success, taking over bad teams with each job. Stanford, San Francisco, Michigan, San Diego too. Or San Diego State, whatever it was. With the 49ers, he drafted Kaepernick, but played Alex Smith for a year to groom him for the next year's Super Bowl run. And then the Ravens, Joe Hortiz, director of college scouting. He had his fingers all over Ravens quarterback selections. Ravens front office and drafting is considered top-notch. That's the Ozzie Newsome DNA. And And then he says, Vic Fangio was Jim Harbaugh's defensive coordinator with the Niners, so he could follow him. There is still some Jim Harbaugh buzz. He has not gotten an extension with Michigan that like everyone's like, oh, he's just leveraging for an extension. Mm-hmm. There's buzz that he's interested in the Chicago job. There's also buzz that he's interested in the Raiders. I have heard zero Jim Harbaugh Minnesota
I haven't heard
buzz or connections.
I have not heard a thing. Now on Pat P's podcast, Brian McFadden said, and he didn't say the name, so it drove me crazy. Brian McFadden said, I'm hearing that the Dolphins are going to make a hire that's jaw-dropping. And he didn't say who. And and of course, Peterson didn't push him because they're just, they're buddies.
You got to be careful. Yeah.
Well, right. And so like he walked it up to the line. Yes. But he said this, like, I think he wanted Peterson to ask him who, because he said it like 3 times. So is that like Harbaugh or I got one that I think he was going, and I don't know this, but I'm just trying to guess.
Reckless speculation.
He said this to the point where I thought, I wonder if he's talking about Belichick.
What?
Leaving the Patriots. Because he kept saying it like this is going to be jaw-dropping, like this is going to shock you. And I don't think Harbaugh would shock you. He kept saying it. And
Harbaugh would be a shock to a lot of people to Miami, I feel like.
Anyway, it was like really weird. And
Saban back to Miami to coach Tua, the quarterback that brought him national championship number 6 or whatever.
It was almost like he's like, Brian Flores got fired for a reason because they've got a guy.
I'm trying to think of other.
I'm just
shocking jaw-dropping
who would be
names.
Absolutely jaw-dropping?
Bill Parcells.
Reckless speculation.
He ain't coming. He's at the horse track
Jimmy
right now.
Johnson coming back. Maybe this is the time for Bill Cowher.
Johnson.
It's been 16 years. Everyone's thought that Bill Cowher was going to come out of retirement at some point.
I just wonder if where things stand between Belichick and Kraft post TB, because Kraft loved Brady. He loved him like a son.
Yeah. On Harbaugh, I don't think there's any chance I don't think there's any Minnesota connection there, but
right.
Alex Boone has talked about him a lot on our Tuesday episodes of Purple Daily. His teams win, and his team it's like a 4-year burnout factor with him.
Yes.
And they kind of got to that point with Michigan. They almost fired him, and then they basically wiped out the coaching staff, brought in a bunch of young assistants, and then they finally beat Ohio State this year. But it would be uncomfortable. It would be abrasive. He'd probably burn the bridge with ownership in the front office within 4 or 5 years. Yeah. But there's also a good chance you'd go play in a Super Bowl. So, depends on what you want.
I do think there's no question at this point, because the steam keeps coming. The Vikings are behind the scenes looking into college coaches.
Well, we know Lane Kiffin,
right? Matt Campbell now has come up.
We're gonna. The Matt Campbell thing, by the way, we're gonna dive into that on Purple Daily. So definitely check that out.
Wait for a second. Wait. Hold on. That's right. There's buzz. There's buzz in the college ranks.
Well, Denny Green was a college hire, second best coach in Vikings history. It's a college. That was also 30 years ago. I think a lot of these college coaches, and Harbaugh might be at the same point. This NIL stuff is it's a huge pain in the ass for these guys, right? If you have an athletic department that's like, let's build some structure here, let's form some connections and get some $1 million checks out to players. But if you're part of an organization that isn't organized with it, it's like, think about all the things you already have to deal with as a head coach. It's just a huge pain in the ass factor.
And the biggest, I think the biggest problem is the attractive thing about the college jobs. You had complete control of the players and the kids, and basically, and now between that and the transfer portal,
guys
you
can
don't
just peace out.
And so, I think that there's a lot of guys who are going to say, hold on a second here. This ain't nearly as much fun when I can't dominate the roster and tell them what to do.
Yes. Nikki Tesla chimes in on the YouTube comment section. You guys are becoming Paul Allen. Whatever you say, we should expect the opposite. Listen, we're wrong quite a bit here. I feel like we've kind of nailed this whole Viking season, though.
Yeah, and we're the ones that said people were going to be fired or at least moved in Spielman's case, and he was ultimately fired.
Also, let's be
Yeah,
honest here, okay?
That's not nice.
From what we've gathered, it sounds like the guy that you're referencing spent several days, if not weeks, basically like chastising anyone that suggested that there's going to be major changes to the organization. So let's not put us all in the same bin here.
I mean, we're not right a lot, so that is fair, but
Bert Mustin on YouTube says, I'd listen to offers on Dalvin Cook this offseason. So Dalvin is going to be 27. His 2022 cap hit is $12 million. He's definitely one of the highest paid running backs in the NFL. There's still like $9 million in dead cap based on so they gave him a big signing bonus when he signed that new contract, and they're spreading that out throughout the length of the deal. But I don't know how much it would save you in cap, but like I guess the reason why you would trade Dalvin is, listen, 2023 is kind of the goal, and he's going to be in his late 20s by then. He's already been banged up a lot. If you felt like some team would give you a second-round pick, I don't know how many teams would give you a second-round pick for a running back at this point, though.
I agree.
It's tough.
Yeah, that position that is so difficult.
He's so good, but he's never healthy.
Guys get hurt
He
all
makes
the time.
too much money.
And at some point, he is going to go off the cliff.
Yeah. And by the way, like
that's what history tells us.
He's the best running back on the team, but like let's say they traded him. Vikings fans, how bad would you really feel if Alex Madison and Kene Nwangwu were your two running backs? You know, I'd roll with those two guys. Give me an offensive line that can make some room.
Nwangwu, man, you get some passing plays going with him.
No, runs up the middle. No, run the ball between the guards.
That's the thing is, it's not the personnel. I want to talk about what the offense could look like.
Yes. Dan Fontaine via the YouTube comment section. You guys are nuts. If you want, I think this is more directed at Judd because he just wants to get rid of every Ring of Honor player on this roster. You guys are nuts.
Getting in the Ring of Honor, Phil.
Well, these three guys will. You guys are nuts to get rid of Kendricks, Thielen, and Harrison Smith. It's a total rebuild if you do that. And those three are absolutely Ring of Honor. Are you disputing that those three are Ring of Honor players?
Thielen is for sure.
Harrison Smith is 100% a Ring.
Oh, yeah. Smith might be a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah. And Eric Kendricks?
And Kendricks is the third one on that list. I think he makes it because he's well liked as well.
Isn't Greenway a Ring of Honor guy?
Not yet. No.
I don't think he's yet.
Not yet. He
will
be.
Though.
It takes some time though. All right. Here's the thing about this league. It's not a rebuild because you have to clear guys out before they go off the cliff. And this is a sport where they go off the cliff. Just because you have their jerseys doesn't mean the team needs to keep them. Harrison Smith is the prime example at his payday of a guy you want to get out on a year before and tell him thank you. And I would help him get to a team where he can win a Super Bowl. But there's this weird notion that you need to hang on to players in football. I've seen this film before, man. You hang on to players, it's ugly. It's unnecessary.
This is a great time to celebrate the work that some of these veterans have done and then stare at their contracts and say, are they going to help us in 2023?
Absolutely. Well, and who are their potential replacements? I'm going to tell you right now, wide receiver depth chart, pretty attractive to me. Pretty attractive. KJ Osborne has turned himself into a player.
Yeah, Marcel.
Justin Jefferson is so good. I mean, you need to get people here who can scheme him open, but if you do, it changes the dynamic. Have you guys ever seen a guy statistically have as good of a year as Jefferson, but if you watch the games to know that there was so much more?
It is nuts. Yeah, it is. I feel like people should be talking about him as like right up there with Chase, right? As the best wide receiver in the NFL. And I think he's viewed as a tier 2 guy.
Oh, I hope he's not. Yeah, I'm with you on
that. Chronosify on YouTube says, laugh out loud. These broskies think that there is a quarterback that can even be drafted this year. Broski. I love the word broski.
That's us? The broskies?
Matt Cardona.
Dude.
So this is definitely being billed as a weak quarterback class compared to other years. But I would strongly urge people to look at basically every draft ever. There's almost always a guy or two that becomes a good quality starter, even in the weak years. And even like if you get a chance, we've talked about these two guys. Go check out Malik Willis. Go check out Carson Strong. And you're telling me with the right offensive-minded, competent coaching staff that those guys couldn't be molded into really good starting quarterbacks on rookie-scale contracts, by the way? Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't – listen, this is not last year's quarterback class or 2 years like the Joe Burrow class. But there's some dudes in here, if developed the right way, could be really valuable, especially on rookie-scale contracts. And I think the Vikings should have their eye out. Yeah.
And if there's not, that's fine too. Like the one thing is you need to get people in here who are confident enough in their abilities to identify that position where they are going to strike when it's hot. So do the Broskis think, oh, the Vikings should win a Super Bowl in 2022, make a run? They're not going, they shouldn't. No, that's not the point here. The point is to honest to God, answer a question and solve a problem that has been a problem here for how long? Like we're talking about this team eventually should get a generational franchise quarterback.
That would be so much fun. It'd be so much fun.
I don't think in your lifetimes, the both of you have truly seen that here. I mean, Dante popped, but then he got hurt.
Yeah. It felt that way for 4 years with Dante.
Yeah, but beyond that,
young enough,
no way,
impressionable enough. Yeah, it's been an amazing 30 years of quarterback.
I saw the end of
Tarkington.
Chairs. Okay, like think about that for a second.
And Tommy Kramer was a franchise quarterback. It's just a totally different era too, and he wasn't like Hall of Fame caliber. But
right.
And then one more here. Somebody has a wild question for Judd's Hockey Show that we can sneak in here. Alex Barrett via the SKOR North app says, I'm so incredibly sick of these Canadian teams holding the rest of the league hostage. Yeah. Either buck up and play the games or leave the league. No playoffs, no cup until COVID is done, and then join again. While finally having a year where we can hope for a possible championship, and the Canadian teams are doing everything they can to ruin it.
This is 1,000% correct. So my thing is this about COVID. Health-wise, you do what you need to do. So like if your state or your province says no fans, I'm not going to debate that. But what I am going to debate is this one. So the Jets and Wild were supposed to play on Tuesday, canceled because right now no fans allowed. The Oilers and Wild, I think, was supposed to play Declan last night, correct? No fans, no game. That's ridiculous. Either the game should be played here, move it, or play it with no fans. Like at some point in time, I get the need to have people in the seats. But if your province is going to say, sorry, you can't, you need to play those games. This is ridiculous. This is not the fact that they're not playing has nothing to do with the actual health of the patrons. There would be no patrons. It has to do with we're going to make these up when people can watch them live and spend money. Bleep that. Play the games. And the Jets game should have been played here, Declan. It should have been played here on Tuesday. Move the game. I believe the Bruins and Canadiens moved a game from Montreal to Boston. Same exact thing. Just move the game, charge less for tickets, make it some type of kids night. I don't know, family night. But you need to play games. This is ridiculous, and it's causing real problems, in my opinion, with the legitimacy of the entire season when you're pulling this crap.
Judd wrote this comment. This was Judd. I know this was Judd's burner account. He literally wrote this to put into Feedback Friday. I can absolutely
piss
tell.
myself off. Is that a good?
Yes,
is that close enough to swear word? I'm pissing myself off.
It's frustrating. I get it. I as a Wild fan, they've only played 6 games over the last 6 weeks. It feels like, and because of the Canada problem, that it's caused its own issues there. I don't know if Canada should just realign and be their own division again, like they were last year. But it's frustrating. I want to see the Wild play games too. I do. And then also Team Canada, by the way, is just loaded with former Wild players. Devin Dubnyk is probably going to be the starting goalie for Team Canada at the Olympics, which is hilarious. Eric Stahl's playing a tryout game to get his legs ready for the Olympics. It's quite hilarious what's happening, I guess, in Canada and hockey right now.
Amazing. So Judd's burner account coming in there with that last question.
This is ridiculous, though. Play the games. I don't care if there's fans there or not. You can show them on TV.
You can always send us feedback through the SKOR North app. There's just a little feedback tab at the bottom, and the SKOR North app is the central hub for everything we do here on Mackey and Judd, on Purple Daily, Judd's written work, etc. So thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for all your questions, comments, concerns. We'll see you guys over on Purple Daily.